Good morning, guys and girls. It's Tom Panos here. I'm just driving along to my first auction of the day, and it's at 10 o'clock, and it's in Newtown in Horden Street. And off the top of my head, Horden Street is where I have done an auction previously for many years ago, which I believe was Alan Jones, the broadcaster, the radio guy, his house in Horden Street. I'm pretty certain it was Horden Street. If anyone can go on there and correct me. Good morning. And Mole, it was so good to see you yesterday. You and your beautiful husband, you're beautiful people. And in such a short period of time, what I've seen you do, like you've been implementing a lot of the stuff in the real estate gym on social. And when I saw your numbers yesterday as a one-person business, extraordinary. Well, it's not really one person, it's a family team, which by the way is still one of the best real estate models I see out there. Family teams, trust me, they've got sustainability long term, and they've got people that have got skin in the game, and they do work. But I want to talk to you. I had a meeting, I'm not going to name the auctioneer, good guy, came in this morning. He's been trying to have a coffee with me for a few weeks, and I sat down with him, and I hardly ever talk to auctioneers, and then he told me the rates that auctioneers are charging, which I've got no idea. I just do my thing. Auctions are a small part of my life. As you know, the real estate gym and speaking and coaching is where it's at, and the consulting work I do to News Corp and some of the work I do with other organizations, media companies. Anyway, cut a long story short, he said to me that the auctioneer fraternity charges somewhere between $700 and $1,000. Generally $700 to $1,000 per auction, and I don't charge that. And I personally believe that $700 to $1,000 per auction appears to be at the upper end. I certainly get it when you've got a multi-million-dollar property and they've gone all out on all aspects of the marketing campaign, and that they're going big and no expense is spared. But fundamentally, I thought to myself as I left that cafe meeting, is what is the fair price for an auctioneer? Now, there's a few auction models out there. One of the auction models is there that you book with a company, and then the company, be it a franchise, be it a specialized auction company, actually goes off. Let me just turn this camera a little bit like this. Goes off and actually charges you a fee. And then what they do is they give the auctioneer a percentage of the fee, and they keep the rest. Sometimes that, like if they charge you, I don't know, $800, they might give the auctioneer $450 and they keep the rest. Part of the problem, of course, with that model there is that you basically could end up getting an auctioneer that you don't want, because you're actually booking at a central spot. And what happens is the auctioneer gets a smaller amount. Cut a long story short, let me just move on. I've just ignored a phone call there. Let me move on and continue talking to you about what should the right fee should be for an auctioneer. I'd like you to comment below. I'd like you to tell me, what do you pay, or if you don't want to disclose it, what you think an auctioneer should be getting per auction. Because my fundamental issue that I have is I see that the real estate agent in the equation of an auction is far more important. Let's be very clear here. Number one is this. Number one, the agent has to list the property. There is the real value proposition. That's where the sale's going on. The agent has to list the property, number one. Number two, the agent then has to convince the vendor to not only list the property with him versus other competitors, but to actually go ahead and use auction as the methodology. Then the agent has to convince the vendor to use a specific auctioneer, pay this amount of money, blah, blah, blah. So what happens next? The real estate agent spends the next 4 or 5 weeks, generally speaking, marketing, going to lots of appointments. I mean, if you were a real estate agent and you actually invoiced per hour the work that you're doing on a property, you'd end up becoming a fucking millionaire, right? If you actually invoice per hour what you're doing. So you're doing, you're doing all your marketing, you're doing all your callbacks, every conversation, you're going out to the property, you're having vendor meetings, and unfortunately markets like these, some of these vendor meetings are not great meetings. You're actually telling people stuff that they don't want to hear, but they need to hear. And you're actually talking to people about some crucial conversations that are going to affect the direction of their life. And the direction of their life is that, hey, you might not be able to actually buy that house that you want because you're about 100,000, 200,000 overpriced in your mind on what you're going to get for your property. So they're having these crucial conversations. And then all that work goes on and an agent has still not got paid. Then you've got an auctioneer. You've got an auctioneer who may have basically been, I don't know, they might have been calling fucking bingo, right? 6 months ago, they might have been calling bingo at a pub. Next thing you know is they're off to Roger David, right? The good ones have gone to the Oxford shop. Some of the other ones go to politics, got themselves dressed up, nice suit, looking fucking good, hop into their car, got their car nice and washed that morning at... Guys and girls, I'm really sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that. That was my agent ringing me up, asking me a legal question about the auction that I was going to. So I want to apologize for that. I had to take that call, and I'm going to see him in the next 5 or 10 minutes. It was about an authority. Anyway, guys, let's move back to this. I want to talk about, so what actually happens, so I want to apologize. I took a phone call there that needed to be had, and I'm just going to wait for this audience to build back on. And I want to just talk about, so what actually happens is the real estate agent has gone through hell. And think about the life of a real estate agent. That's why the other day, when I put on that video with Barbara Corker in which she said that most great real estate agents that she's noticed, the best of the best, what did they have in common? You know what she said? They're nut jobs. They're nut jobs. And you know why she said they're fucking nut jobs? I'll tell you why she said they're nut jobs. Because think about it. On the first day of every month in real estate, you've got a gun pointing to your head saying, go off and list, go off and sell, or you won't eat. That is real estate. And yes, you've got to be a bit of a nut job to be able to fucking handle that. But anyway, let's be, you know, and it's not easy. It's not easy. However, let's talk about this for a moment. What is the fair price for an auctioneer? As far as I'm concerned, the real estate agent is 95% of the equation in the deal, right? So when I hear of these auctioneers that have not listed or sold real estate ever, do not understand the pain and suffering involved in a property transaction from the time you list it, and then have an expectation to bloody get their car washed, to drive to a property, to go off and spend 10 minutes to look at the property and say a nice poetic advertisement, pretty much not get involved in any of the deal making, and expect to be making $700 for 5 minutes work, and then another $700 an hour later takes it to $1,400. Let's be very clear here. Who makes $400? Who makes $1,400 in a matter of 60 minutes? It's not the person that's an entertainer at the Marlborough Hotel at Newtown. It's not the fucking comedian that's been hustling out there, right? So all I'm saying to you is that I think that one of the reasons why there's no sustainability and long-term successful business models in the auctioneer fraternity is because I think the value for money that is brought to the table in an auctioneer is questioned at a specific fee. I'd like you all to put underneath what you think the fair amount an auctioneer should be getting per auction, and maybe put in there some comments and turn around and say, hey, you know, depends on experience, also depends on the suburb. I also know that in certain parts of Australia, I know that real estate agents actually don't charge for the auction because it's actually put into the marketing campaign and inherited as a cost by the office. It might be because the office does the auction, and I know that's the case in Melbourne a lot. I also know there's a little bit of that in Queensland. And, Yeah, and by the way, let me finish off this video and just say I'm not taking totally anything away from the value proposition that an auctioneer does, because the worst thing that you can happen, the most expensive thing that can happen in a real estate auction, is you do an incredible marketing campaign, you do everything right, the agent does everything fantastic, and you go along and they've got a dud auctioneer that loves to listen to his voice or her voice for fucking hours. Where am I turning here? For hours, reading through every bit of the contract, reading through every bit of the condition, putting people to sleep. And then what happens is someone that's intelligent in the crowd puts them off. They get flustered. They buckle and they destroy the whole campaign. So I totally get that. Guys and girls, I'm about to start my first auction. Press that share video. I'll keep you up to date with how I'm going. Good to see you.